Success in life comes when you simply refuse to give up. On a mission so strong that obstacles like failure and loss only act as motivation. I mean, like, no one has the power to shatter your dreams unless you give. Something's telling me to stop. I never do that in the name of love until I've given it my all and it just ain't enough. See, even if it's getting realer than they say it was, straighten up. Who's afraid of what? Player, get involved. Nah, you work hard till you're better off. 24/7, 365, never off. Look at me, I'm nocturnal, I don't sleep. My eyes heavy bags and crow's feet, but I won't be stopped. I go from tragedy to majesty. The victory has been woven into my tapestry. My adversaries not cut from the same flag as me. That's why the champion's gonna be who it has to be. This ain't the type of opportunity that just appears. I made it here because I shed blood, sweat, and tears. To get the title I forever have my sights on. This is where I become an American icon. Yeah. If you a champion, show me you a champion. If you a champion, show me you a champion. Cause real champions move like champions. And real champions prove that they're champions. If you a champion, show me you a champion. If you a champion, show me you a champion. Cause real champions move like champions. And real champions prove that they're champions. Listen, forward motion never fail. I learned to hustle is part of a cautionary tale. Hard work is something I know very well. A lesson and a blessing out of each and every L I ball. I fell in love with the game and never looked back. My foundation and frame, they never shook that. Been trailblazing my name into the book that represent all the champs who had a chance and took that. And laser focus is the reoccurring theme, forever coming to me like a reoccurring dream. If we weren't kings, we'd probably be swimming upstream, trying to make the devil come clean for the umpteenth. You know me as the global dean from the noble team. So convene and the whole regime shall be overseen. I'm a pillar like a column in the pantheon. Competition, I can't see them, I'm champion. Yeah. If you a champion, show me you a champion. If you a champion, show me you a champion. Cause real champions move like champions. And real champions prove that they're champions. If you a champion, show me you a champion. If you a champion, show me you a champion. Cause real champions move like champions. And real champions prove that they're champions.
I'm gonna prove that I'm the champion. And if it's something I can't do, well then it can't be done. And I ain't saying I don't lose, or saying I'm the only one. But if it's either I or you, the best believe there's only gonna be one. A true champion.
Yeah. If you a champion, show me you a champion. If you a champion, show me you a champion. Cause real champions move like champions. And real champions prove that they're champions. If you a champion, show me you a champion. If you a champion, show me you a champion. Cause real champions move like champions. And real champions prove that they're champions. If you a champion, show me you a champion. If you a champion, show me you a champion. Cause real champions move like champions. And real champions prove that they're champions. If you a champion, show me you a champion. If you a champion, show me you a champion. Cause real champions move like champions. And real champions prove that they're champions.
The tour through the regular season has come to an end, and a first glance at the playoffs shows a Coliseum ready for a valiant fight. Live from the virtual Bristol Motor Speedway in Bristol, Tennessee, we welcome you to the first race of the Season 5 playoffs for the 4 Wide Racing Cup Series and our coverage right here on MaxSpeedTV. So happy to have you join us on another Wednesday night as we get our first taste of playoff action. We're live from the Bristol Motor Speedway in the broadcast booth. My name is Kenneth Bueno, and after a couple of weeks back at the Daytona International Speedway, we settled our entire playoff field, but we do have a bit of storylines to tell you about before we jump to the green flag here from Bristol Motor Speedway, our first of many trips throughout the calendar year and through the playoffs, which we will see developed quite interestingly. And before we do any of the details and getting into everything about what is to see, what is to expect here at Bristol and what we might see in the first race of playoff action, let's take a look at our schedule and everything highlighted in orange, blue, and orange on the very right side of your screen. That's all we have to worry about. All those races outlined in white, we have crossed through, we have gotten past the regular season, and now it's time for crunch time, playoff action, see which drivers make it all the way to the championship. We start tonight our first look at Bristol Motor Speedway the entire season, a far cry from the difference in last season where we did see Bristol in the regular calendar, not as a part of the playoffs, and you saw it pretty late in the season entirely. It was around race 12 when we saw it last season out, but this time it's the first race of the playoffs. We do head to the Charlotte Roval 1 week after tonight, so we'll have our first and only road course race of the playoffs in action in the first round. Pocono then to close off and bring us down to only 10 drivers in contention for the title. Then we return to Charlotte, but on the oval, Talladega, Phoenix, and then when we decide the championship 5, we'll make a trip down to Homestead Miami Speedway, and we'll see exactly which ones will be the best and which driver will ultimately hold that crown at the end of the season. A lot of things to talk about with the playoff race tonight from Bristol Motor Speedway and the context of the playoff field. Before we do that, though, we have to take a look in the rear view mirror and walk us through an interesting and amazing Daytona race we had just 2 weeks back. Started at the green flag, and ultimately it felt like a DBR controlled race. All of them were practically unstoppable in the first stint. First caution would come out, Colin Forrester, AJ Green, the teammates would tango in turn 4. We would see them later in this race though, albeit in a very different spot. In single file, we saw a lot of green flag action as most of the field kept it clean. We did see some green flag pit stops along the way. This was a pivotal caution in the last leg of the race. Tyler Warner going around on the back straightaway, getting a piece of the grass right before turn 3. Bunched the entire field together, and for the first time, really, it felt like we had some competitive racing between the inside and outside. We saw the top side dominate. AJ Green, Colin Forrester bringing themselves to the front. Caution flag would wave at the tri-oval. Here's a look at how Brandon Gillis went around, caught Curtis Kelly and a bunch of other drivers in it, one of our biggest stack-ups of the night. Then after that, inside the 3 laps to go, Brandon Gillis again in trouble, this time with Kyle Benson. And they both had some trouble, had a green flag restart inside overtime territory. Colin Forrester led the way, and this was the most pivotal restart of them all. AJ Green stuck with that 99, ditching the 28 of Jaden Porter. Green would find his way to the outside. That would end up door-to-door at the start-finish line, almost 3 wide, and that was the difference. 5 1/1000ths of a second brought Colin Forrester his 4th win of season number 5. An unbelievable accomplishment, and as drivers are getting ready for the starting grid, we are ultimately inching closer to maybe another race like the one that we had at Daytona. We'll quickly walk over the playoff standings. This is how the field of 15 are going to be, and the most interesting thing to note, Joe Sanchez is not here. He relinquished his playoff spot. It appears he will not be able to make all the races, so he just decided to back out of it. That does bring in Kyle Benson into the mix, and I just realized did not get Kevin D'Elia in there, but Kevin D'Elia, who was the last driver in a couple of weeks back, is now the second driver in, and Kyle Benson, who fell a little bit short just a couple of weeks back, now has some redemption, so after all, he is going to be into the 4-wide Racing Cup Series playoffs. Well, drivers are on the starting grid behind the iRacing official pace car, so let's take you to your starting grid. See exactly where every single driver will line up for this 250-lap affair from the last great Coliseum. Jaden Porter in the 28 looking for another win in season number 5. He's got the fastest time at a 14.473. He brings the 96 of Austin Reedy, fellow playoff driver, to his outside. Those two will be the first to see the green flag. Eric Schaefer in the 3. Inside row number 2, Mikey Neal, I believe making his first start in the 4-wide Racing Cup Series this season. And nice to see that number 8 car on track with a great qualifying effort too, starting in P4. Daytona winner Colin Forrester is inside the top 5. Looking to kick off his playoff campaign in the right way, Adam Alashire in the 91 for Trackhouse Racing, going to be in P number 6 when we roll this thing off. Lawson Peel, the defending series champion and playoff points leader going into tonight. He is 7th. Kyle Benson, now knowing that he's a part of the playoff fight, he's going to be in P8, row number 4. Cody Kinsey is in P9. AJ Green in the 48, who was 5/1,000ths of a second short of the win at Daytona 2 weeks ago. He'll look to try and get win number 1 of the playoffs after starting in P10. Craig Lautenschlager in the 13 is 11th. Kevin D'Elia in the 53 back in P12. Tyler Murray, Christopher Bishop, the 16 and the 42. Those to roll off from row number 7. Curtis Kelly is in the top 15. Lance Hill right on the outside in P16 for Trackhouse Racing. And behind them, the first pair of drivers not to take a time in qualifying. Brandon Banks in the 54, Scott Healy in the 64, both 17th and 18th. Jesse Prees in the 00 is 19th, and Michael Newbraw in the 6 car will round out your top 20. Final 2 in this 22-car field from Bristol Motor Speedway, CJ Munier and Tyler Warner in the 33 machine. It's a beautiful night here from Bristol, Tennessee. Track temp at 72 degrees, air temp at 69, winds to the southeast at around 2 miles an hour. Clear skies here at Bristol, so we are set for a beautiful night of some oval racing. And this track, very, very tough to drive. It can be very disorienting and a lot of fun in some cases. It's kind of like a double-edged sword as we get ready for our first piece of playoff action. Jaden Porter, Austin Reedy to the green flag, and we're underway in the 4 Wide Racing Cup Series playoffs. Austin Reedy leads them through lap number 1. A huge hiccup at the initial start by Jaden Porter. Looks like might have hit the revs a little too high and caught some wheel spin. He has now dropped back to 5th. Kyle Benson on the attack on Adam Alashire. This is a potential pass for 3rd. Almost contact in the middle of the corner. And Mikey Neal starting to close in on your race leader. Benson in the outside wall. Caught a piece of it with the 91. Fortunately, he'll be able to keep it straight. No tolling damage as they get out of turn 4. How about Colin Forrester threading the needle and bullying his way to P4? An electric start here from Bristol Motor Speedway. Nobody willing to give an inch as Alashire and Porter plummet through the field on the bottom. The 91 very loose on the inside. That's going to open the door for Kevin D'Elia. Some new colors on his Chevrolet Camaro with Skybox on the car. He'll get into Porter and go sideways into Lawson Peel up the track. Nobody officially goes around, so we will stay green. But that is tough damage at lap 6 for Kevin D'Elia, playoff driver. And he gets into the wall again. We'll see what happened with the 53 and the 12. Both of them getting into some drama. You saw this 53 car trying to battle against Jaden Porter and Adam Alashire, and it appears they got 3 wide and might have had a tap from the rear by the 3 of Eric Schaefer. Comes up the track into the 12 of Peel, who was just an innocent bystander. The entire field goes by without a hitch, and we end up staying green after all that. So unfortunate for both Lawson Peel and for Kevin D'Elia, picking up some damage, and they are not going to be able to contend for the top spots where they wanted to start this race. Colin Forrester with an aggressive first opening push, and he's already looking forward to your race leader. Got around Mikey Neal in the 8 car, who's sitting on the inside lane, and now that 99 trying in on P1, on board with Forrester. And a beautiful run through turns 1 and 2. Going to find the inside lane here on that 96. We'll see if he can complete the pass. He does not, so he'll settle back into 2nd. Kyle Benson, AJ Green, and Mikey Neal have now made it single file through your top 5 as Adam Alashire finally stops the bleeding. He is settled in 6th. Jaden Porter has severely fallen off of the pole position he started in. Now in P8 behind him, Tyler Murray, the number 16 car league owner for Murray Reedy Motorsports. I talked with Murray before this race went green, said that the car on the opening couple of laps, very loose, and it is a handful to drive. especially here at Bristol, where things can really unravel from your hands in a moment's notice, as Forrester tries to build up a run out of turn 2. Could not complete the move and will try to lurk the outside on the 96 and potentially look at a crossover to turn 1, which ends up being unsuccessful. That's Lawson Peel in the middle of the racetrack. And caution flag will wave. Your defending series champion in an abysmal first 14 laps goes sideways and brings us our first yellow. Fallen ill at a lap down. And this is what happened to the 12 of Peel, who had really fallen off the pace, and you see a bit of the damage, and it just looks like the toe link is ripped off of the right front. He cannot turn that car, and it just gets sideways out of turn 4. Tries to lock up the brakes, but that is virtually right in front of your leaders. All of them going by. Somehow nobody gets into the 12. He rolls down the banking with enough space to clear himself out of any other harm, and really the only other harm is the pace car right in front of him as he gets put a lap down and ends up in an incident. The 12 car in some early trouble and has fallen to dead last. Our first caution at lap 16. And that is big for Peel, who has pulled off a miraculous amount of wins in this regular season. Well, he has been able to rack off 6 wins when last season he put up a total of 7 for his championship back in season number 4 at Texas Motor Speedway. And this is not the way you want to start your 4-Wide Racing Cup Series run, especially as a defending champion when you have a little more pressure on you. And we had touched on that a little bit at Daytona to kick off the year, whether that 12 car was facing more pressure as the defending title holder, because you're going to have that presumption that you're going to be going for another title. If you could dominate the field in one season, then you could definitely do it in another, and there's kind of that weight on your shoulder that maybe you're not able to get that second championship. For Lawson Peel, these playoffs have gone off to a poor start, and after 17 laps, that 12 car has trapped the lap down. He has come down pit road, and he did burn his fast repair. That's going to be a big strategy point throughout not only the playoffs, but as soon as we get a little closer to the round of 10 and the championship 5, that fast repair may be the difference between being in a race at the end or not being in it at all. And it looks like for Peel, an early, quick use of the fast repair might just change the trajectory of his race moving forward. Now, the good thing about Peel in his situation is that if another caution comes out, he will get the wave around. Right now, he is the only car a lap down or more, so he has the potentiality of getting back on the lead lap and at least working his way through the field and being able to hold on to some points. But as the playoff points leader, that's a big shunt, especially this early in the first race of the playoffs. It's a big challenge in this playoff system that was introduced in the NASCAR Cup Series back in 2014, and this one really showing no mercy to drivers who have unlucky runs. The only good thing about these formats, especially in this series, is that you do have 3 races each to pick yourself up to the next round. So let's say if you're a Lawson Peel and this Bristol race doesn't go the way you want it to, things can rebound at Charlotte Roval next week, where he's been really good at road courses. Maybe things can pick things up at Pocono. But again, the last thing you want to do is put yourself with your back against the wall going into that final race of the round, where you're going to have to stress a lot about points and maybe in some cases about winning the race entirely. And that might be your only hope of making it through to the next round. But again, these are all assumptions, all speculation. Lawson Peel, so far, 1 lap down, 22nd, bringing us our first yellow here from Bristol Motor Speedway. Ready to get this race resumed with the pace car down, and the 96, Austin Reedy, leads us back to turn 1. And how about 3 wide? Contact between the teammates. Forrester got into AJ Green and then continued to be aggressive for piece 2. As it looks like 1 car sideways, that is Curtis Kelly. At the bottom end of the racetrack, he will save it. Jesse Prees into the outside wall. And after some hiccups, we will stay under green flag action. AJ Green getting his way to P2. Kyle Benson trying to work the outside on Forrester for 3rd. Kyle Benson still maintaining third. AJ Green flirting with the outside wall. And that has since pushed Austin Reedy away from the company. He has opened things up to almost half a second on the rest of the field. Looks like the early battles between the 48 and the 99 after that restart really hurt the both of them. And there's the 3, Eric Schaefer, getting his way around Jaden Porter in the 28. Did not have a good jump. Looks like just caught some wheel spin on the opening lap. We're right on board with the sophomore driver. Manning the Ally machine, much like he's been doing all season long. He picked up a win earlier in the campaign. And there he is working on the 3 of Eric Schaefer. Both of them working for the 4-Wide Racing Cup Series Championship. Jaden Porter, 3 points above the cut line going into tonight's race. Eric Schaefer, 2 points better at +5. They've had very consistent seasons. It looks like both of them are really running well inside the top 10. They want to make a case known for a championship. And in this first round to get through, working both ends of the racetrack. The 28 hugging the bottom, the 3 car all the way at the very top. And so far, things seem to be rather clean as AJ Green has closed in on your leader. Make that 0.2 of a second back to Reedy. And now here comes AJ Green with a head of steam, bringing Kyle Benson with him. Top 3 all wrapped underneath the blanket, and maybe you can count Colin Forrester too, all within about 0.2 of a second. That 48 slowly creeping up. And this may be dangerous. You've heard that 96 of Reedy. He's been running the outside lane for this entire run. It feels like 48 going to dart to the bottom and try to look for P1. He'll dive to the inside, but to no success out of the second corner. And almost about invited Kyle Benson into the mix. And that 10 car being rather aggressive. And what a story it has been for that number 10 of Kyle Benson. Has been absolutely torn down and rebuilt throughout this entire season. It felt like he struggled for so long, hadn't been able to pick up a win. And then 2 weeks ago at Daytona, we talked about it post-race that he probably wasn't going to be a part of the 4-Wide Racing Cup Series playoffs as it stood, but got the news recently that Joe Sanchez had relinquished the playoff spot, leaving one place open for that 10 car who had missed the show 2 weeks prior at Daytona. So the emotions easily ramped up from disappointed and just looking forward to completing the rest of the season and looking forward to the next one, to absolute jubilation, and then just saying, hey, this is my opportunity. I'm going to make the most of it. And Kyle Benson, with the ACL injury that he suffered earlier in the regular season when he showed up in the booth at Circuit of the Americas during his recovery, and slowly but surely has been trying to make race by race, even with the pain in his leg. It's been an absolutely amazing comeback story for the 10 of Kyle Benson, and this is where he stands right now. 3 places before your leader, and could just very well point his way into the next round. He's got some pressure by Colin Forrester standing in 4th. And Adam Alshire will complete the top 5, our first Trackhouse Racing driver. And Mikey Neal, who we see right now in P6, run very well in that opening run. He's kind of fallen off just a little bit, but things have stagnated. But not in a bad way if you're that number 8 car and currently holding up that spot in front of Eric Schaefer. Lance Hill has found his way to P8. We saw him in a fight with the 28 of Jaden Porter just a little bit ago. Jaden Porter looking to the inside. They might invite that 13, Craig Loudenslugger, in a 3-way challenge for P8. And it looks like at this stage, these cars have definitely settled out from the very loose condition that they were challenged with at the first couple of laps of this race. And you can tell just how short this track is, number 1, but also just how fast it is, because we have already completed now 42 laps here from Bristol in this short span of time, even after our first caution. As here's Mikey Neal looking on the inside for P5 on Adam Alshire. Really worked his way well, but the 3 car, Eric Schaefer, right at the outside. 8 car fighting a loose racing machine, and the 3 will make its way up there. and he'll try and get another point. Everybody from first all the way through about P6, as we're watching this battle, all playoff drivers manning those green spoilers that you see adorned on every single one of these cars, whether it's a Ford Mustang, a Chevy Camaro, or a Toyota Camry. Right now, your playoff field is starting to dominate this race. Look at the difference here between AJ Green and Austin Reedy. It is really separated. And remember, we saw that 48 in contention at about 0.2 of a second, give or take. And now things have opened up to about 1 second and 7/10, almost 2 seconds of difference between your leader and this entire pack led by the 48. Still side by side between Eric Schaefer and Mikey Neal. They're inviting the 1 and the 28, maybe even the 13, and maybe also that 64 of Scott Healy, who has just been hanging around the top 11. A great battle building up inside your top 10, at least the latter half of it. Lance Hill striking the outside wall, but has made some decent progress riding on board with the 1 car. And sideways goes Alshire into the 1, into the 3, and they both hit the outside wall. They'll tag the 64, and that will bring out our second caution. You saw it on board with the 1. The contact was made. All 3 of them get collected, and when the 64 gets brought into the mix, that's when the yellow is thrown. Caution is out at lap 49. And it all started with that mistake by Adam Alshire in the number 91. You'll see it 2 cars ahead of this 1 car who's at focus. The 91 gets hit by the 3. The 1 tries to make it 3 wide. The 8 car almost made it about 4 wide for a split second. They come down the track. They get the 64 of Scott Healy, and that's what sends him around. They all get to the inside of the racetrack, and that is what brings out our second caution here from Bristol. Here's another look at it from the 3. Like I said, just dove it in too deep in the corner, trying to settle himself through, but the space was non-existent by the time the 1 car came in, and that's a hard lick into the safer barrier for the 3 of Eric Schaefer. Him, the 1, and the 91, all having good runs up until this point, and that 3 car with the damage, it looks like maybe all 3 of them might just resort to that fast repair. It appears Schaefer will not. Lance Hill also will not. He will stay out. And might just get the wave around, and with this, that brings Lawson Peel back to the lead lap. He's going to come down pit road. There's CJ Munier, Jesse Prees among those that are coming in for stops. Adam Alshire in that 91. Also in, your leaders found themselves onto the lane, and they have all come in. Austin Reedy has settled back in a 5th, leaving 4 cars to stay out. Michael Newbraw leading this group of talent to make this alternative strategy work at lap number 51. So a frenetic first 51 laps of this race from Bristol. It appears Cody Kinsey, Michael Newbraw, Tyler Warner, and company, they're all going to come in. So that will shuffle the lead back to Austin Reedy in the 96. He'll try to lead us back to action with AJ Green back in P number 2. Well, AJ Green was in this very spot at Daytona International Speedway just 2 weeks ago, a track that he has been successful at before, but just fell short by 5/1000ths of a second to his teammate Colin Forrester in an insane change of events after they had both been involved in a big crash in turns 3 and 4 earlier in the event. AJ Green looking to get his 2nd career 4-wide Racing Cup Series championship. Made it to the Championship 5 back in Season 3 in his rookie campaign, made the most of it, got the championship, and then came back in Season 4, but finished last out of the 5 competitors at Texas Motor Speedway. At 48, looking for some type of redemption. Austin Reedy, on the other hand, leading this race, has not made a Championship 5 in his 4-wide Racing Cup Series career, at least since Season 2. And Reedy, at this stage of the season, currently holds 1 win, courtesy of the Atlanta Motor Speedway in race number 10. And he has been absolutely stomping the field at Bristol tonight up until this moment. We'll see if he can continue at that fiery pace as they will double up behind the iRacing official pace car, which will dive down the banking into the entrance of pit road. And that 96 holds the discretion, brings us back to green. And already challenges the Murray Reedy Motorsports number 10. Kyle Benson forces his way to second on the outside lane. You can tell less energy on this restart. Green and Forrester haven't gone side by side. They have stayed single file. Mikey Neal has re-entered the top 5. Jaden Porter, Tyler Murray, Adam Alashire back through around your top 8. None of these drivers really side by side other than right about here. Kevin D'Elia has fought his way back to 11th, and a 3-way tussle for 13th led by Cody Kinsey. Now making about 4 cars with that 54 of Banks in the conversation. 3 wide. Scott Healy a little bit loose out of the corner. He'll be able to save it after getting involved in that most recent caution. He's just trying to keep it easy for right now. Healy did use his fast repair, much like Lawson Peel did at the jump of this race. And speaking of that 12 car, he's back into the top 15. His car sideways. It's Tyler Warner. He saves it on the apron. Never mind, he will go for a secondary spin. And somehow, now the caution will wave. I was questioning for a moment whether it would come out. And as Kyle Benson was attacking on his teammate, it will slow down again. Caution flag waves for the 3rd time, courtesy of Tyler Warner in the 33. And we're looking at that 33 of Warner just in front of the 12 of Lawson Peel right before this incident where he had gotten loose on the bottom. Corrected it nicely from hitting the inside wall a ton. And just came away with a slight scrape on the rear end. But as he was spinning the tires to get back underway, got that transition from the apron, that dark shade of asphalt, to the lighter concrete shade on the actual racetrack, went sideways. And that's exactly what brings out the yellow. It did not slow the field down right about here. Where he was sideways, he had saved it. Everything was completely fine. Right here was the breaking point. Race control decided that is enough. Caution flag is out. Your leaders were already coming by. And that's one thing about this Bristol Motor Speedway that you have to watch out for so carefully if you're those drivers at the front. Because this track is so short at around 0.533 miles. Because it's so fast at around 14.5-second laps every single time you go around. If somebody has problems near the rear of the field and no caution comes out immediately, chances are if you're the leader, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, all closed up together, you will encounter that car in trouble, and that might result in some extra pileups by your leaders. Fortunately, that has not happened at all so far over our first 61 laps, but we have come close to it. We saw that first incident with Lawson Peel, just how close those leaders were at getting into him, and they did not. It was almost the same with Warner. Caution came out before the leaders got there, so that was the good news. Speaking of cars a lap down, that 33 is the most recent driver to join that trio now, which makes up the 89 of CJ Mounier and the 53 car of Kevin D'Elia, who we remember in that first slight incident that didn't bring out the caution. You could still see some of the damage on both the left and right front of his Skybox Chevy Camaro. D'Elia has not had the greatest run so far here tonight. Going into this race, he is -1 back to the cut line, which is currently held by Adam Alashire, the first driver in P10, as Eric Schaefer makes a trip down to the lane from P19. And it isn't necessarily the biggest brunt to have going into the Charlotte Roval, but you have to imagine that with the playoff field so far up front, at least a good amount of them are, you do not want to be left behind and eating their dust by the time you get to a road course, which has caught many drivers off guard. And in many in these 4 Wide Racing Cup Series playoffs, with the field, not all of them are the best at the road courses. They consider themselves better on the oval. So the road course is definitely an oddball. And when you make the case known that it's not just any road course on the schedule, it is the Charlotte Roval, one that isn't necessarily supposed to be a permanent road course, you make things ultimately 10 times more challenging if you're a playoff driver having some struggles tonight. But again, a long race left to go, 250 laps, a lot of time to make things happen, and we've seen attrition be one of the biggest factors to strike the field at Bristol and at many of the other short tracks on the schedule. So we'll have a restart at lap 65. Austin Reedy in the 96, Kyle Benson in the 10. The two Murray Reedy Motorsports Chevy Camaros will lead us to green. Stonks Motorsports doubled up in row number 2, courtesy of Colin Forrester and AJ Green. Green flag in the air, solid jump by the 96, that 10 car having to fight the 99 for a second, and this is exactly what is biting him right now and what he used to bite the other drivers. Challenging on the top, making the driver on the bottom forcefully struggle to put in the throttle, and Kyle Benson falls back to third. Colin Forrester finds his way to second. They all single file at around the rest of your top 10, maybe a battle at around P6 or 7. Make that Jaden Porter looking on the inside of AJ Green, unsuccessful. Now Alashire looking forward to Mikey Neal in the 8 car, on board with Alashire for Trackhouse Racing. And you can tell just how fast this Bristol Motor Speedway is, and it can get very disorienting as a driver when you're making lap by lap around here. In some cases, you can get confused where turn 2 and where turn 4 is. You don't even know whether it's a front or back straightaway you're on at the moment, just because this track is so fast. Battle for the lead now settled. Colin Forrester to the front at lap 69. And a nice pass by Forrester to grab the lead away from the 96. We'll see what Reedy can do in some dirty air behind this Chevrolet Camaro. It seems to be working just okay. Kyle Benson, though, might just want to make this a two-way fight for the second spot. AJ Green has been trying to hold off Jaden Porter for the last handful of laps, and this is the first time, really, we're seeing Porter try to enter the top 3 ever since falling back after starting on the pole. He's really been making these runs happen on the bottom, but AJ Green responds at the top side of the racetrack. They're starting to conjoint together with the 10 of Kyle Benson, who has been trapped behind the 96 of Austin Reedy. You see him shut off the top there before lurking to the middle and now the very bottom. And one thing that you're seeing of the 28, Jaden Porter, is that he is faithful down low. He really does not want to go up there to the top of the racetrack, and in some case, it might just be a chance at saving that right front. We've seen many times over and over again, especially here at Bristol, that you can really wear out that right front by running the top, where that car slides up, almost gets into the wall, and you have to try and arc it back down to the racetrack. It can be very easy to wear off the right front, find yourself into the outside wall. But for that 28 of Jaden Porter, if you try to apply the throttle very tenderly, very carefully, that car won't slide up. You avoid that tire wear. And then when everybody else on the top rips their tires apart, you can take advantage on the long run. So Porter, one of those drivers, curiously enough, to take that bottom line. So far, it seems to be working in his favor. Might just be under a challenge, though, by the 91 of Adam Alashire. Colin Forrester up by 0.4 of a second on your second-place car, Austin Reedy. And this is the closest battle we're having all on the racetrack at around the mid-pack, top 5, top 10, give or take. And now they're starting to go at it for second, so never mind Austin Reedy trying to catch up to your leader because he's got his teammate to deal with first. Kyle Benson gets around the 96 and finds his way in a second, and now has to try and get around that 99. Kyle Benson looking for first opportunity to lead this race. Go across the line for lap number 80 from Bristol Motor Speedway. Update on the 12 of Lawson Peel. He has settled nicely into P11. After falling a lap down in 22nd, ending up in our first caution of the night at around lap 16, Lawson Peel has been able to slightly recover, and we mentioned that he did use his fast repair when he made that first pit stop after the initial caution. So the 12 just hanging in, putting in laps at around 14.9, slightly slower than your leaders, who are currently setting at around 14.8, and some in the lower 14.8 bracket. So we'll keep an eye on that 12, maybe just saving tires for now. We've seen that 12 be notoriously good at doing just that and then picking up spots through the field. But like I mentioned before we had our most recent restart, there's a lot of time left. Only lap 82 of 250. Got a lot of time to get yourself settled, plan your strategy for the rest of the race, and then make do from there. The only thing is that 12 car doesn't really want to stay too complacent and not have a response by the end of it, because he wants to make sure he can at least hold a stable points gap going into the Charlotte Roval. Bit of a strike to the outside wall by Jaden Porter in the 28. Remember, he was looking at AJ Green for position, but he got passed by the 91 and still holding on to that bottom, and may just end up with the 13 of Craig Lautenschlager right behind him. Big story by the 13 last season was the way he got into the championship 5. Punted the leader in front of him in turn 3 on the white flag, and somehow got to the line first as they were about wrecking to the start-finish line. Locked himself into the championship race at Texas, but things really didn't go his way. Did not perform as well as Lawson, Peel, and company, and just kind of hung in there. Lautenschlager looking for more of a different approach to the championship this time by, and that AMD Toyota Camry has been running well inside the top 10. Really hasn't struck all too much. We'll see if that changes as we get later in this race. Long run settling in at around that 38 of this stint on tires. Austin Reedy has found his way back up to the front. Got around Kyle Benson, his teammate, now looking forward to Colin Forrester, who grabbed his 4th win in the campaign at Daytona 2 weeks ago. Forrester looking to get back into the championship 5 conversation. And Austin Reedy slowly but surely working his way through. Last time by, set a faster lap, 14.936. Forrester at a 14.950. It looks like that time by Reedy just a little bit slower, and his teammate can't hold the defense any longer, because here comes AJ Green, Adam Alshire, Stonks Motorsports, and Trackhouse Racing making a bid for it on the top side, and they've got it. And make that 3 wide. In the middle goes Benson, gets the 91, and almost about turned the race car. Jaden Porter backed out of that before things could get much, much worse. And Benson will stay alive for now. That could have been a huge scare, and might have just been similar to what happened to Alshire earlier in this race, where he caught the wall. Lance Hill and Eric Schaefer got into him, and it was a big pileup to bring out a yellow. And speaking of that 91, he is aggressive as can be. He has found his way to challenge to 3rd on that 48 of AJ Green. As their leaders encounter lap traffic for the first time, that's Tyler Warner on the top side. 3 wide at the exit of 4. Make that a breakaway for Austin Reedy. Back to the race lead. And what a job by Reedy. Played that smart. Waited for that lap car to come around. Made that inside pass happen, and just took advantage of a good situation. That 99 could not plant the throttle because he had to take notice of that 33 slower on the high side, and that 96 could just pummel his way through and make sure that Forrester could not get the run out of the banking. And so Austin Reedy takes control of the race once again at lap 95. We are still duking it out at around the latter half of the top 10. Kyle Benson, Adam Alshire, now Jaden Porter, 3rd car in the mix. So we'll keep our eyes peeled on what happens there at around your top 10. We're watching a nice battle inside the top 8. Scott Healy looking on the inside of Curtis Kelly, Mikey Neal, also the trio. I say all of them mostly running that inside lane. Curtis Kelly for the Fast Banana car that he runs in the Sunoco Cup Series, broadcasted by Podium Esports. Got Skybox NASCAR, but very similar to the Fast Banana car he does run in that Sunoco Cup Series on Sunday nights. Still side by side with Mikey Neal for that position, as that 10 really starting to fall back on tires. It looks like he really used them up on this run. The 13 of Lautenschlager darts to the bottom of the track. He's got the nose ahead. He'll clear the 10, and he'll bring in Scott Healy. All of this happening around P6, and they have fallen back from this battle between these 3 cars. AJ Green, Adam Alshire, and Jaden Porter are wrapped within a blanket. They have easily let Colin Forrester and Austin Reedy run away. That 48 at around 2.3 seconds behind that 99 car, his teammate. AJ Green and Forrester, 2 of the Stonks Motorsports cars that are pretty much at the top of the playoff picture, as Alshire gets into Green and got him sideways, and they tagged that 28 for just a slight second, and that almost sent both of them around. Getting a little aggressive here, lap 102, but we will stay green. But as I was mentioning, Stonks Motorsports, they've got a chokehold on everybody except Lawson Peel ever since Joe Sanchez forfeited his playoff spot where he was sitting in second. Forrester sits 15 spots and points above the cut line. AJ Green and A, with the way they're running, it seems to be working quite well. Alishire is forcefully making his way, though, into the top 3. Jaden Porter took the best out of that situation and got by both of them. And Alishire looked for the middle, got it for a minute. Scott Healy now challenging for P4 as Jaden Porter sticks it into the top 3. And on board with Porter, one of the many drivers that's running that inside lane. And he sees lap traffic just in front of him. That's what your leaders are dealing with right now. He is about 3 seconds off these guys. This 99 car now getting his way through some other vehicles, the 16, the 33. And that has really separated first and second by a tune of 2 seconds rather, not 2/10 of a second, but 2 seconds. The 96 has made his way through. He's now going to lap that 93 of Cody Kinsey, so that puts 16 cars on the lead lap in our longest green flag run of the night. Still working through tonight's race from Bristol Motor Speedway. We'll take a short break and step aside, but you won't miss a thing as we continue our coverage of the 4 Wide Racing Cup Series playoffs on MaxSpeedTV.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head to head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series in officially licensed cars engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Who wins the race? Kerwin! It is Femi Olat, the sophomore!
Simply the headache, you catch me is something you'll never do. I turn around and I love you. No motivation is needed. Look, I put myself on the pedestal. This is incredible. This how it feels at the top. Got no incentive to stop. Can't the change so in the beat and it's right back to sleep. And I used to take me that ingredient. You know the work and I'm out of here. More than a tune is a body. In the beat and it's right back to sleep. And I used to take me that and got me here. I give it all that I got.
Welcome back to coverage of the 4 Wide Racing Cup Series playoffs from the Bristol Motor Speedway. Happy to have you with us on MaxSpeedTV. Kenneth Bueno to bring you all the action. And this is a look off the rear end of your race leader, Austin Reedy, who has taken back control of the lead and dominated the last handful of laps. He has led through our longest green flag run of the night in front of Colin Forrester and Jaden Porter, those 2 others to round out your top 3. We have seen our first taste of lap traffic take place in this race. We didn't really see it in the first couple of stints, and we had some cautions to break the action up. But right now, with this longest green flag run at a grand total of almost 70 laps, as Austin Reedy will cross the line for that magic number, we are seeing more drivers and more drivers be put a lap down or more, currently sitting at around 15 cars on the lead lap, and it shows you just how fast your leaders have been. We should expect them sooner than later to come down pit road at some point. But as it stands, guys have been very patient. And that 96 comes full circle. He looks to his teammate, Kyle Benson, who has fallen back to 13th. And most likely will make this pass to put that 10-car lap down. And this race really has shifted in the opposite direction for Benson, who ran a majority of this race inside the top 3. And has really fallen off the pace. And almost expected him at one point to have made an unscheduled pit stop just because the difference was so stark from him being fast up front to him dropping like a fly. And it seems like he definitely has fallen off the pace. Him and Curtis Kelly going at it for 14th, and that is for the lucky dog spot. Both of them playoff drivers. That 10 car, like we said earlier tonight, did get the news that he was going to be a part of the playoffs after Joe Sanchez, who was second in points, forfeited his P2 spot in the standings. So Benson goes into this race 1 point out of the cut line, and the same goes for Curtis Kelly in that 71, who's 2 spots ahead in 14th. The 28 and the 99 going at it for a lead lap position, however. In the midst of lap traffic, going at it for second. Porter found a way to get through. It looks like Forrester has settled nicely in the third. Not really going to try and strike back, and they have invited that 64 of Scott Healy, who we really haven't talked about all too much in tonight's race. After starting in 18th, that 64 has been on rails ever since he got involved in that caution on one of the straightaways. And Scott Healy, one of the champions back in Season 2 of the 4-Wide Racing Cup Series, has made some sporadic starts throughout the campaign, but has done well every time he shows up on the racetrack. And this has been our biggest move of the night. Worked underneath the 89 of CJ Munier, one of the lap cars there, as the 96 continues his trek through lap traffic at around 3.6 seconds over Jaden Porter, who's now starting to get by the 10 car of Kyle Benson, and that puts us at 13 cars on the lead lap. Again, we are expecting at some point for the leaders to come in for service, and that's going to be a very fun sequence to cover, because we'll see how easy it is to mess up an entrance here at Bristol, because you've got 2 different ends of the racetrack where there are pit roads, and you can find your way down there if you do things right, but there are many opportunities to get things wrong. And when you're at a track that relies so much on momentum as Bristol Motor Speedway, and when you've got so many cars rambling around you, it can be very easy to mess up and find yourself in a tough predicament. Might take yourself out of the race. 3-way battle for the last spot in the top 10. AJ Green holding on to this spot. Jesse Prees, Brandon Banks. 2 of those playoff drivers. The 48 also has fallen off the pace. Him in the 54 almost making contact. They're starting to bring in Cody Kinsey. And these handful of cars are the last ones on the lead lap. Cody Kinsey holds on to that last lead lap position. Him and Brandon Banks have been tallying for it. Looks like the 54 will now be the first car that will be in danger of being put a lap down, because there is Austin Reedy. We've got a car on pit road. It is a Murray Reedy Motorsports car, but it is your league owner, Tyler Murray, making his way in. Looks like he missed his stall by a couple of feet. I lost a bit of time trying to get back to it. He's one of the couple of cars that have made stops already tonight, but your leaders have not elected to do so. The only other car to come in is Tyler Warner in 21st, and we did get notice that Michael Newbraw on the 6th car, he has pulled it behind the garage. He is 17 laps down and counting. Our first DNF here from Bristol Motor Speedway. So getting it around halfway, we'll see exactly where this 96 settles in all this, as we might have a challenge for third. 64 of Scott Keeley has caught up to Colin Forrester as they have weaved through the lap traffic. And here comes the 64, the Season 2 champion, working his way on the inside on that 99 car, but to no avail. Looks like Forrester's going to hold on from the top side. And remember, we saw Jaden Porter in that 28 run the bottom every single lap. He's still doing that, by the way. He's hugging the apron. And again, like I mentioned, saving the right front has been the key for this 28 car, being at the very bottom. And it's starting to pay dividends in the right way, as there's the 91 coming in for service. You did see another car come in, and that was Kyle Benson in the 10 machine, the black and somewhat neon green Chevy Camaro. Make his way down. Adam Alishire there to join him, as he has fallen back to 16th. I believe he was one of the lead lap cars to come in, so we may just see a flurry of other lead lap cars make their way down. Jesse Prees in the 11th spot. Looks like he encountered some trouble. He was around Brandon Banks and Cody Kinsey. Looks like slowed down just severely there, as he was in front of both of these cars prior, so we might have either gotten loose. We'll see what happened. And just looks like caught the apron, scrubbed off a lot of speed, then went the 93, and It wouldn't take long before that 54 found his way around, so the 00, I believe, either was finding his place on the pit road or just slowed down to avoid getting into an issue, and Jesse Priest is plummeted through the running order. DBR battle for round P6 as the 12 car gets around the 13. Now looks on towards his teammate, the 3 car of Eric Schaefer. Both of them involved in some early troubles tonight from Bristol. That 3 car, the dent on the front straightaway, I was about to say, but front bumper of the Camaro was at the contact with Adam Alshire and Lance Hill. 12 car got into his own issue after getting loose. Look at the gaggle of cars behind them, though. Cody Kinsey in this entire mix getting about swallowed up. Curtis Kelly, Christopher Bishop. These are lead lap positions, by the way. 13th and 14th. And then there's everybody else in this mix. We're about 3 wide. Alshire makes his way through the middle. That's a scary moment for almost everyone involved in that. And that is so scary when you're one of those cars who's on older tires, everybody else is on freshies, and we did talk about how loose these cars can get when you've got cold rubber on you. And that is so tough as Craig Lauenslager makes his way on a pit road, his first stop of the night. He has dropped 2 laps. And your leaders, as of right now, have not bidden. They have stayed out on the track. Curtis Kelly and Lance Hill about to make it 2 laps down for them. And that puts us with about 10 cars on the lead lap. As this race has gone through, we're expecting probably worse. And maybe less cars on the lead lap as this 96 and company come down for service. And practically just awaiting that 96's turn for pit road. And approaching 100 laps on that stint of green flag action. So on this stint for a very long time. As you ride on board with the 96. And boy, really has been fast. And it is really shown. That time by way slower than Jaden Porter. 16-second lap compared to Porter's 15.7. But no doubt, this 96 car has been on rails. It looks like not for long, though. The 28 of Jaden Porter closing in 0.2 of a second. Almost made it 0.1 of a second. Almost a handful of car lengths between the two. Porter is starting to clear in, and he might have a chance at the lead. Here he goes. Jaden Porter striking this time by. He'll dart his car up the racetrack. That's Lance Hill, who just got freshies lurking to the bottom. And that could have been dangerous for either driver, but the 28 is trying his hardest to get around to the lead. Car sideways, it's the 1 who goes slightly into the wall, brings it up the track. He will save it. And that's a scare that could have brought us another yellow, but it does not. As here comes Porter to the inside for the lead again. Lap car Kyle Benson moving his way through. Remember, we are still expecting them to come in for service. Eric Schaefer, Lawson Peel, them both still trying to duke it out for P6. But all the while, Jaden Porter has been attacking inside lane after inside lane decision. He's got the nose in on the quarter panel, had it even and about the door of that 96 car, and he is still not broken free. And caution flag is out, and a big stack up before turn 1. Tyler Warner sideways. It looks like the 16 of Murray is also involved, and we did see Scott Healy near that entire thing as well. And what happened here? Warner just got loose. Overcorrected into the outside wall. Eric Schaefer, Lawson Peel doing a good job of slowing down to get around it. Looks like that's why that 64 was slow on the track. The 16, Tyler Murray, also getting a piece of this, although it did not appear to be directly involved. Oh, that's Scott Healy going sideways. One of the lead lap cars getting into the 16. We'll take another look at that. As Scott Healy will stay out, the leaders will come in. But watch as the 64 deals with the 91 on fresh tires. That's Adam Alashire. Oh, and just got into him as they got into the 13 for a tad second and brought Murray into the inside wall. And that is a huge hit for him as here comes Healy for his stop. Austin Reedy is already out. Jaden Porter could not complete the pass for the lead, but got close enough. As Healy will miss his pit stall by a large margin. There goes Tyler Murray. 42 of Christopher Bishop. AJ Green also in. We saw that 48 inside the top 5 in tonight's race prior to the caution. And so they're all going to come in. That was our longest green flag run of the evening and more than 100 laps. We almost saw a nice showdown for the lead before they had to come in at some point. So that's the good news for all the lead lap cars. They did not have to go in for service. They just had that caution come out. And that is a perfect time to get some 4 fresh Goodyear Eagles and try to get some fuel to make it all the way to the end of this race, which I believe they should be able to do. They were on that 100-lap run, so now at lap 158, well within at about 92 laps to go, 91, give or take. We'll probably have those drivers be able to come in for service. Austin Reedy, not there at Daytona 2 weeks ago, did not join his Murray Reedy Motorsports teammate and Kyle Benson. Remember, those two have been so good at the super speedways since the season began at Daytona a couple of months back. That 96 just took a week off, knew he was already locked into the playoffs, and took a week off just because he couldn't make it. Had to make about a 10.5-hour drive to get back to his house. He was not near his home at all in his setup, so he took that race off, just watched the chaos from afar, and has really reset in a nice way. He has led the most laps out of anyone tonight. It has been an absolutely outstanding accomplishment. 133 of the 160 laps led for that 96. Although Jaden Porter did put the fight up to him, and that's why Porter was the pole sitter. That's why he was fast in practice. That's why he can be fast in a race setting. He was holding that bottom, saving his tires, and he made the most out of that long run. Can he take advantage, though, when we get the green this time by? A bunch of cars on the inside, single file. Pace car is down. We're green at lap 161. A sluggish jump by the inside, and Austin Reedy takes us through turn 2. Mikey Neal going in his second. Gets around the 28 on the outside. Car sideways. It's Cody Kinsey up into the outside wall. Christopher Bishop gets into him, and no caution waves will stay green. You have to wonder whether that's tolling damage. For the 93, it appears it won't be. Mikey Neal drops way off the pace and brings Jaden Porter back to second. How about Lawson Peel, who we haven't talked about since the first incident? He's back into the podium, and he makes use and gets through to second. Porter got loose at the bottom end of the racetrack. Open that door wide open. Here comes Peel for the race lead. Lawson Peel finds his way to the front. Forrester sideways out of the corner. He saves it. He stays sideways at the apron transition, and he'll deliberately fall to the field. As a result, Scott Healy on Mikey Neal for 5th. And that brings in Eric Schaefer to the top 3. Got his car repaired on pit road. Jaden Porter is trying to come back into the mix, but it has awfully become a struggle as Lawson Peel shot out of a cannon on the restart. Here comes Schaefer challenging for P2. And he's got it. What a run by the DBR duo. Schaefer's going to get loose out of the corner, though, and bring that 96 back in for the challenge. But as they're doing that, it's only going to allow Lawson Peel to maintain up front and pull away. We've seen that so many times, especially when Peel's up front. See both of them go side by side. And Eric Schaefer knows what's at stake. Lawson Peel could get win number 7 of 2023 if he can hold down to it. And Schaefer now dials up the top. He'll look for second once more. So Eric Schaefer finds his way to third. Lawson Peel has kept it at around 0.3 of a second. Here's Colin Forrester trying his best to recover from that slight mistake where he got loose. Kevin D'Elia, car right behind him, but he's a lap down, currently 18th, and that puts us with currently 10 cars on the lead lap. Jesse Priest is the first one that's at mercy of being a lap down. But obviously, we just got into this run, so it'll take a while. Christopher Bishop, though, first piece of lap traffic that your leaders will have to encounter. Eric Schaefer has turned on the jets, and he is looking for clean air and the lead right with his teammate on board with the 3. The way they have stretched it out in front of Austin Reedy in the 96, I believe is just keeping his tires cool for the moment. It might be the same with the 28 of Jaden Porter, and you understand that this might end up as a long run, but it looks like that has completely negated itself. Caution is out on the speedway. And one car was in trouble there. That's Adam Alshire. Lawson Peel gets involved. What happened to your leader? For the second time, Lawson Peel is involved in a crash, and this time it's way after the yellow is thrown. This is what happened to Alshire. Got loose and then just got ran through by the 16 of Tyler Murray. Got into the outside wall, and it might have just been as he was coming down the track. Oh my goodness. The 12 car comes slamming in, and mind you, Peel had used his fast repair. Caution comes out. He does not know where Alshire is on the track, and he'll see him last second. Bam. And the smoke billowing out of the front bumper of the 12. And he's got the 91 right in front of him. That will shuffle Eric Schaefer to the race lead as a result. And what a sequence of events. And we talked about it earlier in the show, how if you're a leader, you are not safe from a caution that can happen anywhere on the track, because as you're trying to find the pace car, that car who's in trouble might still be there. And that's exactly what happened. Peel could not see the 91, noticed him at the last second, and came in at a high rate of speed, and now that 12 may just be out of this race. And we did mention the big turnaround from having to look forward to the Charlotte Roval and just trying to muster and salvage a good run tonight, to being in contention for the win with under 100 laps to go, and it has gone back to the previous prompt. Back at the mercy of playoff action, and now having to focus to the road course in 1 week time at Charlotte, as Eric Schaefer takes the lead away. Austin Reedy, Jaden Porter, Colin Forrester, and Jesse Priest round out the rest of your top 5. What a sequence of events here from Bristol, and it is only going to get more insane by the minute. We'll take a moment and step aside. You won't miss a thing. Coverage of the 4-Wide Racing Cup Series comes on the other side here on MaxSpeedTV.
Who wins the race? Kerwin! It is Femi Olat, the sophomore!
Tipsy the head you catch me is something you'll never do. I turn around and I love you. No motivation is needed. Look, I put myself on the pedestal. This is incredible. This how it feels at the top. Got no incentive to stop. And the dreams are and the beat and it's right back to sleeping. I used to take me, then it got me in. You know the work and I'm out of here. More of the doing is about it. Was having a beat and it's right back to sleeping. I used to take me, then it got me in. I give it all that I got.
Back to the green from Bristol, lap 180 of 250 as we continue our coverage of the 4-Wide Racing Cup Series playoffs right here on MaxSpeedTV. Eric Schaefer and Austin Reedy led him to the line. That 96 finally striking back. Reedy back to the point. Right on board with the Teamer Designs Camaro. Here forces through Colin Forrester to get back into the top 3. Mikey Neal, who has been under the radar all night long, has settled into the top 5. It's been hanging around there and might just have a chance at the lead. Eric Schaefer and Austin make contact, and Schaefer gets sideways. He will save it, and we will stay green. As here comes Neal, looking on the playoff driver of Forrester for second. 96 will have a chance to pull away. Currently stagnating at around 0.2 of a second. Sideways goes Neal. One of the many instances of cars getting loose after the restart. He'll drop through the top 5. There's Jesse Priest looking for position in that 0-0. And that separates your top 3 by a couple of 0.1 of a second. Jaden Porter, Scott Healy, Jesse Priest, the rest of your top 5. As Eric Schaefer is trying to slow down the bleeding, he's working up against the 71 of Curtis Kelly. That is not for position, though. Craig Lounslager, the next car behind him, at about 1.6 seconds back. Colin Forrester finds his way to the front, gets around the 96, and at lap 188, Forrester crosses the stripe in clean air. And this will be huge for Colin Forrester. Not only would it be his 5th win of the season, it would be the one that locks him into the next round when we kick it off at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. And now a large train of cars building up on the inside. Jesse Priest, one of the only ones to lurk up the top side. The 8 car and the 3 to follow him there. Jesse Priest finds his way into 4th for the first time all night long. We talked about attrition, how that could affect the outcome of tonight's race. It hasn't been as prevalent as we might have hoped or might have anticipated it to be. But it is working in the favor of Jesse Priest, the DVR Chevrolet, who has not seen the front all night long. Now with a chance at the top 3. He's got over the 28 of Jaden Porter, and now on the back bumper of Reedy. And what a race it's been so far from Bristol. We have seen cautions come out to break up long runs, medium runs. And every time, most of the time, we see a new leader up front. We have seen many drivers challenge for the first place position this evening, and most of them have been playoff hopefuls. But now we've got 2 non-playoff drivers inside the top 5 in the 0-0 of Priest and the 8 machine of Mikey Neal. And this is posing a unique situation for Eric Schaefer and Jaden Porter. They want to race these 2 up front aggressively, but they know that they are not running for the championship. They do not want to be too aggressive, get into contact with either of those 2, and ruin their chance at a good race heading into Charlotte Roval next week. And they are just putting up an absolute brick wall in front of that 3 car. He has no lanes of option. He wants to follow that number 0-0 as Austin Reedy mounted a beautiful run out of the corner last time by, and is posing a challenge to the inside. Could not break the 99 that time through. They both go for the bottom, and a smart move by Forrester. Wants to block any momentum. He gets hit by Reedy. Goes into the wall. The 96 goes for a tumble into the safer barrier. Caution is out as your leaders make contact. Oh my goodness. Your leaders make contact, caution waves with 52 laps to go. Looks like Reedy just made contact with the rear end of that 99 car, and he was absolutely hounding Forrester all the way through, and I think Forrester actually just got loose, didn't really make all too much contact with the front nose of Reedy's car. Just got loose, and in front of the 96, he went sideways. And look at the damage done to Reedy's car. He does have a faster pair, so that is the good news. But look on board with Reedy. That was a hard hit, and then an even harder one to the inside wall. A bit of contact there with Jesse Priest. Mikey Neal gets into his first incident of the night. And Reedy does have the savior of the faster pair, but that drops them both from contention for the race lead, and that gives it to the 13 of Craig Lounslogger, who has not seen P1 nor the top 3 all night long. He has been hanging around the top 10, producing an average race up until this point. And as we close in on the final 50 laps from Bristol, the 13 has a chance to lock himself into the next round and change the trajectory of his playoff run. Good news for Reedy is that he has only dropped to 4th, so he still does have a chance at winning this deal. But for Colin Forrester, drop track position, back to 9th. And with the right front damage, he did not come down to repair. Mikey Neal also suffering the brunt of the impact. He didn't really pick up all too much damage either, but he is falling back to P10. So Mikey Neal having to work through some more traffic if he wants to get back to the front. Brandon Banks, by the way, is in second. We saw Brandon Banks at one point in tonight's race at mercy of being put a lap down by the 96 of Reedy. He's ahead of Reedy this time by at lap 201. It shows you again the attrition level that happens here at Bristol, and that anything could happen here at Bristol. Last time we were here, it was Eric Schaefer to break through for his first short track win after being so fast at these shorter tracks and not being able to grab one himself. And how about Craig Lounslogger, a driver who has struggled to get to victory lane all season long, now with a chance to break free and get his own. And with your current top 3 as it stands, that makes it 3 of those who made the Championship 5 race last season at Texas, now in the top 3 tonight with a chance to win at Bristol. Just insanity in the way that these races can change. Lights are off on the iRacing official pace car, ready for a restart at lap 203. There's Tyler Murray picking himself up with the rest of the field. Lounslogger Banks, your front row. AJ Green, Austin Reedy back in row 2. Scott Healy, Eric Schaefer. Those doubled up in row number 3, back to P6. Pace cars down. Early jump by the 13. We're back under green. And look who has already gotten himself in a second. Austin Reedy now goes for the lead in turn 3. And caution is out again. It might have been Colin Forrester. Yes, him and Eric Schaefer get together. They were back in row number 3, row number 4, respectively. Let's say got loose, got into the 3, and sent them both into the inside wall square. Try and see if we can get a better look at this action. And yeah, right there, 99 just gets loose. The 3 can't do anything about it. He's trapped on the bottom. And that is all she wrote. Forrester drops back to 9th. Eric Schaefer ends up on pit road. And again, just talk about the complete change in direction this race has gone through. And even then, how much it compares, or how much it contrasts from 2 weeks ago at Daytona. Craig Lounslogger finished 19th at Daytona after starting 15th. He's now in the race lead. Austin Reedy did not even make that race. He's now in 2nd. Scott Healy also was not a part of the festivities at the World Center of Racing. He's now in 3rd. And then AJ Green was on the other end of the spectrum, the one who Fell short by 5/1000ths of a second to his teammate at the line on the last lap. And all of them with very different stories. Craig Lautenschlager hasn't won a race. Austin Reedy has. Healy has not. Brandon Banks has. AJ Green has. Jaden Porter has. Mikey Neal, rookie driver. Jesse Priest has not. And you also look at the way the playoff field has also evolved throughout the race. Austin Reedy, Craig Lautenschlager, all of them performing well. Brandon Banks hanging through the mid-pack. He's got a shot at the front. Some good points for Charlotte Roval. And then you look at Lawson Peel, your defending champion. 30 laps down and still on pit road with a blown motor. Adam Alshire, playoff driver, out of this race in 19th. Lance Hill also put it behind the wall. The one car in 17th, 28 laps down. Tyler Murray, Kevin D'Elia have fallen back 3 laps down, and the same goes for Curtis Kelly. Christopher Bishop is 2 laps down. All of them bearing the green banners for the 4-Wide Racing Cup Series playoffs. And it shows you just how much things have changed and what could be next when we get to the Charlotte Roval in 1 week time. That is going to be a ball, and that will be next week on MaxSpeedTV. Same time and same place. You'll find it here on the MaxSpeedTV YouTube channel at around 9:10 p.m. Eastern. We go green from the Charlotte Roval, our first and only road course race of the 4-Wide Racing Cup Series playoffs. That action comes your way next week, and then we close off the round of 15 at the Tricky Triangle, Pocono Raceway. And that's going to be a lot of fun. 3 different types of tracks, 2 oddballs if you can count them as them. And one heck of a show. As Craig Lautenschlager chooses the outside lane for the restart at lap 209. Austin Reedy on the inside. And he tried going for the lead himself before that yellow came out. Only time will tell whether that Teamer Designs Camaro can get back to the front. The 13 car jumps early. We're back under green with about 41 laps remaining from the last Great Coliseum. This time, not as much of a jump off the cannon for the 96 of Reedy, but he might be there. He'll dial up the outside lane. We're almost 3 wide inside the top 5. That was Jaden Porter. Almost flirted with the middle there in between the 48 and the 54, but backed out of it before things got itself in that scenario. He'll get the inside on Banks for 4th. And Jesse Priest sideways behind them. He goes for the wall. He'll save it. As sideways goes Reedy in front of the field. Caution is out. Lap 211. Oh man, the drama continuing to build up. Reedy starting to fall with his mistakes. And just a simple case of getting the rear end stepped out at the exit of the corner. You're trying to carry so much throttle, so much momentum, and that car can't handle it. Got sideways at first, but then came back up the track. Got some help, too, from behind by the 64 of Scott Healy. And Reedy, as a result, will drop track position. He has fallen to the top 10, P10 specifically. See him right here, got loose. Loses the ground, tries to pick it up, is loose again, and then Healy does not slow down enough in time to get out of the way. He gets into him. And that 96 is on pit road. Him and Colin Forrester coming in for service. We are under yellow again from Bristol. All right, so it appears we'll try again in a couple more laps. We'll see if the lights flicker off. They do not. So we'll go yellow for at least another lap before we double them up and get this thing ready for green flag action. Mentioned earlier in the race about the playoff domination, how we saw the top 6, all of them consecutively filled with playoff drivers. And now it seems to be some more drivers in the middle of it that are not part of this fight. You look at Craig Lautenschlager, who is a playoff driver, but Scott Healy, Mikey Neal, 2nd and 3rd are not. So they can just go for the win no matter what. They can break into the playoff fight and avoid a driver locking into the round of 10. Jaden Porter, AJ Green, Kyle Benson. That's where you start to see all the playoff drivers come into frame. Especially that 10 car. Where did we see him come back? He came back out of nowhere. He was about 2 laps down at one point in this race. And the 10 car has rallied back. P6, maybe not the race lead, race win that he could end up with. I mean, there's still a lot of time, but still, possible opportunity to just get a good finish anyway. And be able to be in a more favorable spot. And Benson did not have any playoff points just because he had missed the playoffs 2 weeks ago before Sanchez had forfeited his spot. And just came in, plain and simple, with 2,000 points. And was 1 point out of the cut line. And with that minimal amount of a gap, could be able to leapfrog all of them, be above the cut line by the time we get to Charlotte in 1 week time. So he'll get the outside of the 3rd row. Lights are off on the iRacing official pace car. We'll try and see if we can get this race back under green for a while. Our longest green flag run was more than 100 laps for sure. And ever since, we have only seen short runs. Cautions have come out rather quickly. But can Craig Lautenschlager hold on to the top position and grab his first win of the season? Or will Scott Healy and Mikey Neal spoil the playoff party up front? Pace car is down. Lap 217 right now underway. The 13 jumps ahead of the field for turn 1. Mikey Neal almost about shoved the 64 through the corner. He overdrives turns 3 and 4 and will open the door for Jaden Porter. He's got help from Kyle Benson and a gaggle of playoff cars to the latter half of the top 10. And they're all over the place. Forrester into contact with Schaefer into the outside wall. Three-car battle for P4. Porter holding on to the spot ahead of Benson and AJ Green, as all of them have single filed out. Looks like Mikey Neal sideways gets into the 28 on the outside wall. That will slow down the field again, and for the second time, the 8 car of Mikey Neal finds trouble on the racetrack. And another case of getting loose on the inside of the racetrack. Boy, have we seen that so many times this evening, where a car just ends up in trouble. And it is so hard to save these next-gen cars when they get unsettled. Here's a look on board with the 8 car when he found the trouble at first. Right there. See the revs just slightly dip and just plummet as the 28 of Porter has nowhere to go. And luckily, he doesn't get hit by anyone else. Neither does Neal. And for Porter, that'll keep him in the top 3. But for the 8 car, he will drop it down to the pit lane. And he will give up all the track position. He has fallen 2 laps down in 13th. Christopher Bishop getting a wave around here in the 12th car on the racetrack. And once again, under yellow as Craig Lautenschlager leads us down to another lap. Lap 222. Telemetry tells us we'll have about 7 minutes of action. That is, of course, if we stay green. And so far, that has not happened. That 13 has been holding it down, though, that's for sure. We haven't really seen the 64, nor anyone else, challenge him other than Reedy, who, by the way, has stayed back in 9th and has not been able to catch up to the rest of the field. Out in front, Kyle Benson also made a trip down for fresh tires, so he's got the freshest tires out of anyone in the field. So does Cody Kinsey. So they're going to look to gain track position with strategy on the tire side. For everyone else, just trying to hold on to the front handful of spots and pray that this race goes green the rest of the way and that they can hold on to it. Inside the final 30 laps here from Bristol Motor Speedway. We'll take one more break and go side by side. You're watching coverage of the 4Wide Racing Cup Series playoffs on MaxSpeedTV.
Who wins the race? Kerwin! It is Demi Olat, the sophomore!
Tipsy the head of you catch me is something you'll never do. I turn around and I love you. No motivation is needed. Look, I put myself on the pedestal. This is incredible. This how it feels at the time. Got no incentive to stop. And the time is right. And the beat in this life like the sleep that I use to take me to the green. And you know the work.
doubled up for the restart. Lap 225 here from Bristol Motor Speedway. We appreciate you joining us on MaxSpeedTV as we continue our coverage of the first race in the first round of the playoffs for season number 5 of the 4-Wide Racing Cup Series. Craig Lautenschlager, Scott Healy will double up on the front row. AJ Green, Jaden Porter, the 48 and the 28, third and fourth on the racetrack. Eric Schaefer, the last one inside your top 5, and we've seen a flurry of yellows come out in short time spans. We'll see if we get a longer run to end this race. We'll have 25 remaining from the last great Coliseum. And the 13 will bring us through the restart zone and back ahead of the field for turn 1. Scott Healy, also no pressure for second. They'll do at it for third. Jaden Porter sideways at the bottom of the racetrack. And that could have been close. How many times have we seen drivers get loose on the bottom of the track and not save it? It could have stricken that 28 car on the bottom. It does not. 48 of AJ Green now stuck down there as Craig Lautenschlager has kept the 64 at bay by the tune of 0.2 of a second. Porter and AJ Green settled it through. The 28 finds his way to fourth as the 13 tries to hold on to the lead. And on board with the 13. And that gap by about a car length or two. Healy has really caught up. In the last lap or so, he set a 14.49. Lautenschlager with a 14.57. And most notably, he gets loose out of 4 as AJ Green tries to hold on to position in front of Jesse Freese and Kyle Benson. Meanwhile, here's Scott Healy for the lead on the inside turn 1. Got it blocked off, and here's Eric Schaefer. Now flirting with the top side, making it a 3-way fight for P1. This is really tuned up over the last couple of laps, and we said it probably would if we got a longer green flag run in, and so far we do. Eric Schaefer breaks through to second. Caution is out, and it is Austin Reedy spinning like a top on the apron. Looks like he got into the 54 of Brandon Banks at the exit of the corner and then caught the 16, his own teammate, traveling down the track. This is a big group of cars behind AJ Green. We were talking about that battle up ahead with Freese and Kyle Benson. Looks like right about there, Reedy gets loose, comes down into the 54. And how this race has turned around for Reedy in the poorest way possible. It has been such a tough break as Christopher Bishop gets another wave around. I believe he will be on the lead lap now. So that'll make it 12 cars on the lead lap. And once again, Craig Lautenschlager has to play defense behind the 3 of Eric Schaefer. By the way, history says he's the winner last time we were here back in Season 4, race number 12. And so Schaefer has the opportunity to go 2 in a row. And as well, that would make it 2 races in a row this season, that the winners in both of those races go 2 in a row at the track from last season. Colin Forrester, the winner at Daytona. And Bristol might belong to Eric Schaefer if he can get this done. I'm going to correct myself on that front. It is not the second time. It will be the first time in the last couple of races. AJ Green was the winner in Season 4 at Daytona. But Colin Forrester defended his win from the first race of Season 5 at Daytona. So just kind of a confusing scenario there. But nonetheless, we'll have ourselves under yellow. And if you're Eric Schaefer, your chance of the win might just come with the way that he handled that last green flag restart. Being aggressive and running the top. That 13 had experimented with different lanes all night long. He was running the bottom and the middle. And Eric Schaefer had done so well at manning that very top side. He got that position over Scott Healy. If he can get at least one good restart and be even with the 13, he might be a threat. And his best bet might just be to stay single file. Avoid any pressure from third on back. And he might be able to have a chance at Lauenslager before this is all said and done. Again, we'll have less than 15 laps to go when we cross the stripe for the green. And that's not that many laps here at Bristol when you recognize how quick these laps go by at around 14.5 seconds. So for Lauenslager, he's got a test on his hands if he wants to win #1 on the season. Eric Schaefer has won a race this season. That came virtue of the Indianapolis Oval race. At race number 16, he'll be looking for win #2. And then Scott Healy, Jaden Porter, boy, have they been good as of late. Jaden Porter had a chance at the race lead in our longest green flag run of the night. He has found his way back up to 3rd. And he'll try and jump that 3 card when we get to the green flag once more. We've seen a lot of early jumps in that restart zone by Lauenslager, so who knows, it might happen again. Pace car is down. 13 laps to go from Bristol Motor Speedway. And this time, Schaefer is getting jumped by everyone 3rd on back. He is single file, but that Healy car is down there, and the 28 is hot on his heels. A 4-car pack for P2 as Lauenslager pulls out to 4/10 of a second. And you have to imagine if you're Schaefer, you have to hold off on that pressure. They are side by side for 3rd, so that is the good news. It looks like Healy got a little bit loose at the exit of turn 4. That opens the door for the 10 car of Kyle Benson. He files through to P4. Austin Reedy has ended up back inside the top 6. Lauenslager, though, has found himself under fire from the 3. 2/10 of a second and closing between the 2 cars. And we talked about how strong this Reaper Speed Lab #3 car has been on the top of the racetrack, and he's got a big run out of 4. The 13 takes notice and goes up the track. What this is going to do is pack in your top 3, maybe even the rest of your top 5. Schaefer with a diamond arc down low. He's got the nose in there, but Porter is on the outside to fend in. As the 3 and the 13 go side by side. Loose goes Schaefer, and here's Porter to 2nd. 7 laps to go this time. And for the 2nd time, the 13 has a car on the inside for the lead. We've seen how good Porter has been on the bottom all night long. Porter has the nose ahead. The 13 fights back. Porter's loose out of 4. We're still even for P1. And what will that do if you're Kyle Benson and these guys on back? Will you try and take advantage of what's happening? Will you try and push? It seems like for the 10, he's holding on to his 4th place position as Porter once again strikes on the inside. A fight for the lead for 4 laps to go. Help on the outside with the 3 car of Schaefer. We are still door to door as Porter pushes Lauenslager up the track. And he is forcing him into a mistake. He wants Lauenslager to falter at some point. He is almost putting him into the outside wall. He'll nose ahead for 3 laps to go from the fastest half mile. And now is not the time. Porter gets turned right in front of the field. They'll stay straight. They were 4 wide. Eric Schaefer to the line with 2 laps to go. It might be a battle for the ages. Scott Healy and Kyle Benson go at it for P2 as Eric Schaefer looks onwards for the white flag. Around goes Austin Reedy, but we will keep this race green. Scott Healy with one more chance on the bottom. Healy down low. Final opportunity in turn 4. Photo finish, but Eric Schaefer stays undefeated at Bristol Motor Speedway. Eric Schaefer comes out of nowhere in the last stint and steals Bristol in Season 5. A Polish victory burnout for the 3 car. After doubling down on his win at the Brickyard in race 16, he doubles down at the last Great Coliseum. Eric Schaefer, your winner tonight from the Bristol Motor Speedway, parks it on the start-finish line as he wins by 1/10 of a second over Scott Healy, who had that one last chance going into turns 3 and 4. Let's take a look at the results. This is how it is unofficially from Bristol. Eric Schaefer, the winner. It is his 2nd win of the season. Scott Healy came up just short of the race victory to spoil the playoff party. Kyle Benson comes all the way back from multiple laps down in this race to the podium spot. We'll talk to all 3 of them before we wrap up our coverage on MaxSpeedTV. Cody Kinsey, 4th AJ Green, to round out your top 5. And what a run for Cody Kinsey near the end. Didn't really see him until those last handful of laps. Brandon Banks comes home in 6th. Colin Forrester in P7. Jaden Porter in the 28. At one point had a chance at the win. Got into contact with Lounslogger, who behind him comes home in 9th. And they end up there. Christopher Bishop in the 42, quiet all night long, but he comes home with a top 10. Austin Reedy in the 96, we saw him go around, coming to the white flag. He ends up as the last car on the lead lap in P11. Kevin D'Elia struggled since his first bit of contact in the first stint of tonight's race. He is 12th. Curtis Kelly, 13th at 3 laps down. Tyler Murray is 14th. Jesse Prees rounds out your top 15, and then goes the rookie driver, Mikey Neal. Lawson Peel faced a myriad of issues this evening and drops to 17th, and it's going to be a big one at Charlotte Roval to see if he can recover from this week's mess. Adam Alshire is 18th at the end of tonight's race. Lance Hill is 19th. Rounding out your top 20 is the 89 of CJ Munier. A bulk of these drivers called it quits a while back. Tyler Werner in 21st. Michael Newbraw, 134 laps down in P22. So what an ending here from Bristol Motor Speedway, and it is the number 3 of Eric Schaefer who comes home victorious in all of the chaos. And we'll have a moment to speak with the driver of the 3 who wins his 2nd race of season number 5. And by the way, doubles down here at Bristol. Eric, what an unbelievable race. You had some damage, you got caught up in a crash early on, and you rebounded. How were you able to do all that to get the win tonight?
I made some mistakes early with Curtis and Kevin and messing a teammate up there, and I felt kind of crappy about it. But no, man, after a couple incidents, I just started driving mad, and it paid off running the high side where everybody else was trying to run the low side.
And give us a perspective of those last couple of laps. You're trying to catch Craig Lounslogger. You've got Jaden Porter in the mix as well. They make contact. What's going through your mind as you dart for the inside to get by him?
Oh man, just natural instinct. As soon as I saw Jaden come up, I was sitting there thinking to myself, "Oh, they're gonna hit." And as soon as they did, Lawson was like, "Go low." And as soon as they touched, man, I just instantly went low and was hoping I could make the corner still into 3 and not screw up myself all the way to the wall. But yeah, it paid off, man. It was very surprising that happened, but I'll take it.
2nd win of season 5, but most importantly, this one comes in the playoffs where you've got that green playoff banner, and this means, surely enough, that you'll be locked in to the next round when it starts in a couple of weeks at Charlotte Motor Speedway. So how good does that feel, knowing that you've won the first race of the playoffs, you've set the tone, and now you can focus on the next couple of rounds ahead of you?
Kenneth, it feels good, man. Yeah, there's definitely some momentum going on our side here, and yeah, it definitely feels good going to the next race and not really having to worry about it. So,
well, I can say something for sure, Eric. I think Bristol's starting to fear you because you won this race last season after it took you so long to win a short track race, and you come back and do the very same thing. I think Bristol's starting to get a little scared. Eric Schaefer's starting to take over. But Eric, before we let you go, to continue the celebrations and with your playoff win, anyone you want to thank in particular for tonight's run?
yeah, man, appreciate definitely you for putting on the great broadcast like always. Can't say enough for what you do for this league and for us and the exposure we get through you. Huge shout out to Tyler and all the admins and everybody who helps out with the league and donates and everything else. So And then the drinking bro guys, man. Like I told you before, man, we're all just a big happy family. And Reaper Speed Labs and Paul Setup Shop.
A big win here from Bristol Motor Speedway. Eric, of course, on behalf of myself and the entire MaxSpeedTV team, we appreciate the kind words. Congratulations on the win from the last great Coliseum. You're locked into the next round and must feel good. We'll see you at Charlotte Roval in 1 week time, but until then, congratulations once more.
Thanks, Kenneth. I appreciate it.
Eric Schaefer in the 3-car, victorious again at Bristol Motor Speedway, and the driver who comes home right behind him, a little bit short, but a great run nonetheless for the non-playoff driver in Scott Healy, the driver of the 64, who joins us now. Scott, give us your perspective. Those last handful of laps, you get by Jaden Porter and Craig Lownslager. Almost about brought it out of caution, but it did not. You're right on the back bumper of the 3. What's in your head at that moment?
Just hope and pray, my man. There's not much you can do. You know, we're all racing for the win, and you know, just try to be wreck avoidance. And luckily, got out P2. The car was great. Just just back and forth, getting hit, getting wrecked, going back to the field, coming to the front. At the end, it was really fun. It was a good win for Eric. Shout out to him, and yeah, it was fun.
A physical race here from Bristol, no doubt about it. I mean, you started 18th, you got involved in some hiccups here and there. What did it take to rally back from those cautions, those spins, and the damage that you picked up on your Camaro along the way to come back where you had a chance at the win and to be able to cap off a race like this in the right way?
You just got to keep calm. These cars are monsters. They're just weird. You know, they just want to spin out one lap and then they're totally fine the next. You just gotta keep your head straight. You gotta keep your mindset focused and hope for the best. You know what I mean? So it takes a lot. It takes a lot of focus and strategy to get up there.
Use that focus to your advantage. You end up in P2. Now we move on to the rest of the season. I know you're not a part of the playoffs for the 4-Wide Racing Cup Series, but Charlotte Roval up next. Any expectations or even any expectations for a bulk of the races that we'll see in the rest of the calendar?
I'll try to make it. My work schedule's everywhere this month, so we'll see what I can do. Rovals or road, I should say, are not my best. Primarily, I'm just an oval guy, but you know, if I'm here, I'm giving my best shot and see what I can do in the road.
All right, well, a great run nonetheless here from Bristol. Scott, an amazing P2 finish. Before we let you go, anybody you want to thank for tonight's run?
Don Wheaton, TWRS Setups, Hyperforce, and friends, family, you guys, and admins that deal with the BS every week with the drivers. So I want to thank everyone tonight.
Well, we certainly appreciate the time, Scott. On behalf of our broadcast team, congratulations on the P2 finish from Bristol, and hopefully we get to see you at the Charlotte Roval, and if not, hopefully we see you in at least some of the other races for the rest of the schedule. Congratulations again.
Hopefully. Have a good night, my man. Appreciate you having me up here.
Scott Healy in the 64 comes home in second, and what a run he put up to the end, especially in that last lap. Almost had the inside and almost made it 2 weeks in a row where we had a photo finish coming down to the very last lap. We'll talk to the driver who comes home in third. I have to imagine this story is unbelievable for Kyle Benson. And Kyle, you texted me earlier today. You said, I may be in the booth tonight, but then came the news that you were going to be a part of the 4-Wide Racing Cup Series playoffs after all, and you bounced back from what appeared to be a setback where you were multiple laps down. You finished in the top 3. That must feel good. It has to be.
Hey, it feels great. I pulled the right front tire off of it completely. So I had to go down pit road and get a new set of shoes, but I thought I was going to be in the booth with you tonight, man. I had no idea what was going to happen. And, you know, Tyler tells me that, you know, Sanchez wasn't going to be able to make it for the rest of the year. He said next man up, and I gladly took it, you know, and I'm happy to where I was. You know, I got really lucky with everything going on today. I just clawed back from where I was and kept my head down and just played the cautions right. I didn't pit for a while, and then, you know, cautions laid out nice. And I took tires with like about 25 to go. And at that point, it was just, you know, if you have them, burn them. So that's what we did. And we got a top 5 out of it.
And you were there the last couple of laps, 2 laps to go. I mean, when Lounslauger and Jaden Porter get into contact near the end of the race, I mean, you found yourself there with Scott Healy. What was the strategy at that point? Was it to just get around Healy and then go through Schaefer, or at least bring Healy to Schaefer closer and then try to attack on both of them?
I honestly thought it was going to be bigger. I thought there was going to be more people involved, and I tried to get to Schaefer, and once I got to him, the car was too tight at that point, and the right front was pretty much little to none. So it's tough, when you're right behind somebody and dirty air packs onto you, and you're super, super tight. Especially at a short track. And I tried to get into a lane and try to get to where I was running. And I got to Healy. I thought they were going to get together coming out of 4, but they kept it pretty clean, and I took whatever I could have got. So I was kind of, after that, just whatever I got was a bonus.
It certainly was a great finish to the end. And let's talk about this comeback. I mean, you tear your ACL, you're out for a couple of weeks, you try to make it through the pain, you come back officially, and you realize you weren't in the playoffs 2 weeks ago. Then tonight you get the news that you're in, you make the most of it, and now you're heading into the Charlotte Roval with a lot of momentum on your side. And the last time we were there, it was back in season number 2. So how does it feel to have a good run tonight and now move it over to the second race of the first round?
Hey, it's great. It's been a tough few weeks with everything going on, and finally feels like stuff's starting to click, and going to Roval, which I have a lot of experience with, ran really well. That's where I got my first 4-wide win. So, and it's good to go to a track that I'm comfortable with. With these cars, it's gonna be a little different because they're better road course cars, but I mean my 4-way and road course is pretty good, so I'll take whatever I can get. Really got to call through a hole. Just taking that provisional. I just going with those playoff points. So good playoff point. Good points overall. And I don't know how I'm gonna sit after tonight, but we're gonna find out, and we're gonna hope. We're sitting good, and we're gonna take whatever we can get and get as many points as we can.
It's been awesome seeing you on track, no doubt about it. Huge comeback, and for being a driver that was announced right before race time that you were going to be in the playoffs, certainly a monumental feat now going into the Roval next week. Kyle, before we let you go here from Bristol, anybody you just want to thank for this phenomenal top 3 finish?
Yeah, everybody, dude. 4-wide racing, everybody that comes a part of it. We got some cool stuff coming up next season, so be on the lookout for that. Other than that, I gotta thank you, Kenneth. Sorry for flaking on you, but just kind of had the when I was told to wreck and race, I was gonna race. So sorry about flaking on you, but you do a hell of a broadcast as is. So I gotta thank everybody. Like with 4-wide coming every week. Everybody that watches the broadcast, man, I love watching them back, and we're gonna give her hell at the Roval.
Hey, it's flaking in the best way possible. I'd see you on the track and competing for wins and being in this 4-wide Racing Cup Series playoffs has been awesome to see. Kyle, we appreciate the time as always. Always a lot of fun having you up in the booth, whether it's podium or whether it's an entire race altogether. And we hopefully see you at the Charlotte Roval in 1 week time. Congratulations again.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Kyle Wenson closes out our top 3 in the 10 car, comes home in 3rd. What a race win for Eric Schaefer in the 3, who doubles down, like we said, at Bristol Motor Speedway and continues his streak of short track wins, ? Especially here. And it looks like he's going to be able to move on with that momentum. He is locked in to the round of 10 when that kicks off in a couple of weeks at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. But make no mistake, we are returning to Charlotte, just not on the oval. We'll be on the road course configuration 1 week from tonight. The Charlotte Roval will be up next on tap, and that'll be 9:10 p.m. Eastern right here, same place here at MaxSpeedTV. And then we'll move on to the Tricky Triangle Pocono Raceway for the next race of the round of 15, and then we'll close that off, head for the round of 10 at Charlotte, Talladega, Phoenix, and then the ender at Homestead Miami Speedway. A big thank you to all of those involved at helping the 4-wide Racing Cup Series be what it is today. For league owner Tyler Murray, for all of the admins and everybody as a part of the race council, and from all of us at MaxSpeedTV, my name is Kenneth Bueno. Thank you so much for watching our broadcast of the 4-wide Racing Cup Series playoffs from the last great Coliseum. Congratulations to Eric Schaefer on win number 2 of the season. Road course racing up next, Charlotte Roval, 1 week from tonight.